Love music. Live sport. Talking football with Bill Young and David MacKinnon on RockSport Radio.
How you doing? It's Talking Football. David MacKinnon in the studio with me tonight. Bill Young with you until 8. Let me just remind you, you can listen to the programme on DAB Digital Radio online and via your smartphone using the TuneIn app if you use the iOS system. If you're on Android, you can use TuneIn. You can also use the Radiogram app as well. And you can watch the programme live. Why you would want to is beyond me, but never mind, you can. You can watch the programme live on Facebook, Twitter and Periscope. You can take part in the programme, 0333 9442. That's the number to dial if you want to call. However, if you want to do what you normally do and bombard us with tweets, then you can do. That's at RockSport DAB. First things first, and we must say a big congratulations to the new Morton manager, Jonathan Johansson, who's been appointed today. Good appointment from the club, Davey?
Yeah, I know Jonathan very well. Really nice guy, very conscientious, and he'll be well liked by the players. So I think that's it. And he's a genuine guy, and he's not one of these managers that shout. He's very technical, encourages players and supports them. But I think it's one out from the left field, isn't it? But Jonathan was there as a coach, and he'll be known by Warren Hawke, who's the chief executive there at Morton. So he knows what the club's about. He lives in Weems Bay, so it's
sounding a wee bit husky tonight, son.
Well, thank you very much.
A wee bit husky.
That's very nice, yeah.
I had a pal. He was a dog musher. He used to sleep outside. He felt a wee husky every other night.
Oh, goodness sake. By the way, that's a 1940 joke, is it no?
Well, it's 20 to 8, 1940.
Here we go.
No, listen, I think it's a great appointment. I really do. And I'm just wondering, with the experience of Rangers, kind of just that extra bit of experience being at Ibrox for a wee while as well, he probably feels more than able to take the centre stage now himself.
Well, I think so, and I think that, as I say, he's well respected, and a lot of the people around the club will know him. So, it's not as if someone's coming in and maybe going to change it. I think he knows how the club works. He knows the ethos of it. But remember, Jim Duffy was removed because they wanted to go a different way. They wanted to get the club promoted, and certainly Ray McKinnon got them up at the top of the league. So if he can continue that, I know that we had the players on. I think we had the captain on. Was it Jim McAllister the other night?
Yeah, we did indeed.
I don't know what he was saying. I was
weren't you listening?
I was listening for a wee while, but you can maybe inform us. Was there a bit of concern that there had been a change, Bill, you think?
Well, I don't think it wasn't concern. It was more shock and surprise, to be honest with you, Davey. They were more concerned because everything had gone well at training, pardon me, ahead of the Thistle game, and there was no indication that Ray was going to be going anywhere. And then later on in the day, of course, all the players were told that Ray McKinnon was now the new Falkirk manager. So it kind of threw things into turmoil more than anything.
Well, I think the thing is obviously that big game against Thistle in the Saturday, and that was the Thursday, wasn't it? So, by all accounts, I've been finding out locally what was going on, and people were telling me that the chairman Crawford was speaking. Crawford Ray was speaking to him, and by all accounts, Ray had said to him, "Look, I'll see out the game on Saturday. I'll get things going." And then, obviously, he then came back to the chairman and said, "Look, I hear that you've refused Falkirk to speak to me. I don't think that's appropriate." So Crawford obviously said to him, "Well, if you want to speak to them, speak to them." So there's a wee bit.
That's pretty much the story that I heard as well. But here's what I don't understand. If you're in the middle of a contract, is it the club's prerogative whether they let anyone speak to you or not? And there is no obligation in the club. It's not the first time a club has refused the opportunity for someone else to speak to a manager. Well, and the manager has to at some point, and I like Ray, don't get me wrong, I'm hoping to talk to him next week. And we spoke to him before when he just took over the day after, and we've subsequently spoken to him. But here's the thing, contracts have got to start meaning something in football, for players and for managers. And for clubs. Well, you're right. He had only a year's contract, and
basically, if and this is the week, remember, that managers have been sacked. So the thing that clubs will do to a certain extent will honour the contract or come to some compromise to pay up part of the contract. But the other way, the club now, as I understand it, Morton are looking for Ray McKinnon and his assistant manager to settle the terms of their contract, because they've broken their contract.
Yesterday they were talking about representation.
This could end up in court, and that's the last thing anyone wants. And the other thing is, what happens is, I've seen this done before, and what inevitably happens is the club that is taking the new manager settles it, but I would think, given the fact that I don't think Falkirk have got a huge amount of money, I can't see them settling it with Morton. So I think potentially
Falkirk will get money in the bank. No, Davey, they have. Falkirk have got them. One of the things that Falkirk have been good at is balancing the books over the last few years. Trust me.
Yeah, I mean, just off the top of my head, Ray McKinnon may have been on 50 grand. I would imagine, as the manager of Morton, 50 grand. By all accounts, he's gone to Falkirk and they're paying him more. In the scheme of things, a lot of people think managers are getting well over 100,000, but not in the Championship. In the Premiership, probably the average wage, or no, the average, if you take out Rangers and Celtic, it's probably about 100,000, 120,000 maybe. But the Championship, I would reckon Morton were probably paying him £1,000 a week. So Ray is 3 months into that, so he might have a wee hefty fee to pay.
Well, look, Ray's gone, Barry Smith's gone, Alan Stubbs is gone, and Paul Hartley's gone, and we're in week 3 or 4 of the season. What's your thinking on that?
Well, I always believe that clubs, move managers on too quickly. I don't think they allow it to settle. And here's a guy who was the chief executive of Dundee, and in October, the board decided to get rid of Alec Ray. I didn't agree with it, but we did a rule up there, and it was there was 4 directors, 4 owners of the club, and it was 3-1. We made the decision. If there's a 3-1 decision, then we have to go over it in entirety. And the guys up there felt that that Alec wasn't doing the business, but I thought that was wrong. So on that occasion, but at the end of the day, clubs make decisions rightly or wrongly. But I think that if Alan Stubbs, for example, has come in, and Paul Hartley, very similar in the things that they've done at the club. They've brought in 15 players or something. It takes it a wee while to settle, but clubs don't have the patience now, because they've got aspirations to actually get up the leagues, and I think what happens, people in football now controlling clubs say, change the manager. That's not right.
But you know what they do? You know what clubs do on occasions? Clubs hand managers the baseball bat to club them over the head eventually. Yep. You talk about the way that Paul Hartley's gone, the way that Alan Stubbs has gone. Now, I can pretty much guess that at this point no settlement's been made or agreed with them.
No.
I bet you any money that's the case. Yet Ray McKinnon leaves the club and there's all hell lets loose. Yep. You can't have it both ways.
No, I agree with you 100%. And the other thing is, clubs making that decision, it always doesn't work. That people sometimes, maybe in the periphery of football at clubs, think, get rid of the manager and we'll go up the league and we'll do this and we'll do that. Classic example for me was Ross County. You look at Ross County when they get rid of Jim McIntyre. Inverness slightly different, but when Yogi Hughes left, he was the guy that got up the league. So it doesn't always work. If you look at Dundee United last season, ironically, Ray McKinnon, who was touching the top of the league with St Mirren, he was sacked and ended up gone down the league and been 14 points.
With all due respect, I mean, let's focus focus on Ray. That Dundee United thing was absolutely ridiculous. They were lying second or something in the league, and they were only 6 points adrift to the top.
Well, Dundee United, for the last few years have been a wee bit ridiculous.
Kamikaze.
If they forgive me for saying that, because they're in turmoil, really. When you look at it, they're trying to get back in the rails, but is this another year they won't get promoted? I don't think they'll get promoted. I said to you, Bill, at the start of the season, my team to get promoted is Inverness. I really think that Inverness have got it to get in their locker. Great manager and John Robertson. I think they're the team that people will have to fear getting promoted.
Well, I'm just wondering if the team that people will have to fear when it comes to the World Cup next year in France is Scotland, going through this week against Albania. An absolutely magnificent result for Shelley Kerr and her team. Part of that squad, part of that team, Fiona Brown, is on the line with us now. Fiona, how are you?
Hiya, how are you? I'm good, thank you.
Have you got over the euphoria yet, or is it still sinking in that you're going to be at the World Cup? And the great thing is, the first Scotland team to be at a major competition in 20 years. You've written your place in the history books.
I know, it's absolutely mad. To be honest, I don't think it has sunk in for any of us yet. That's us all. We all kind of have to go back to our clubs because we're all in season, so I think that's made it even more so that it's what's going on, because we've not had a chance to sink in. But no, it's amazing, and to be part of such a special group of players, and the group of players that finally made the breakthrough and got there is unbelievable.
David MacKinnon's in the studio with me tonight, and Davey and I both know Shelley pretty well, and I've spoken to her on a number of occasions. I have to say, you can expect her to look as happy as she did, and rightly so. But one thing that I've noticed going through all of these qualifiers and various other games that you've been involved in as a national team, there seems to be a very, very, very strong and good squad spirit.
Yeah, absolutely. I think a lot of that comes from the fact that we have had a lot of setbacks. We've come close so many times, and we obviously made the breakthrough last year getting to the Euros, but the World Cup's a new level, and that's what you dream about as a kid. What do you want to do with your life? I want to play in a World Cup. It's a kid's dream and every footballer's dream, and the fact that we're going to get to do it is just beyond words. But I think that obviously is a big part of it, but as a group it's very genuine, and we all genuinely get on, and we're all very humble people, so I think that obviously plays a big part in it. But it obviously helps us on the pitch.
Fiona, I heard a few interviews after the game, and one pleasing thing for me was hearing your players, your colleagues saying that they would run through a brick wall for each other, for the manager and for each other. So, I mean, as you say, it's hugely important to have that honesty within a side, that when you're on the park, you know exactly what everyone's going to do. They're going to fight for each other. I mean, that must give you a great contentment when you go on the park.
Yeah, definitely. I think it makes you feel very confident as well, that everyone believes in each other. When you go on and play, or if a sub comes on and plays, you don't feel any sort of sense of nerves or being unsure of anything, because everyone's so tight and together and believes in each other, and everyone's got each other's back. So I think that's played a huge role throughout the campaign, and I think even if you look throughout the campaign, it's not been the same team all the time. It's been a squad effort and a squad performance, and I think that makes such a big difference to a squad as well, because everyone feels part of it and everyone feels they've contributed.
Yeah, and a lot of the players obviously play abroad, you included.
Yeah.
Does that mean a lot when you actually come together, or is it something that gives you something to talk about the different levels of football you're playing in?
Yeah, to be honest, it's amazing meeting up for national team, and as you say, when you live abroad, for me, hearing a Scottish accent is the best. So I love going back and meeting up with the squad, and I think everyone feels the same, where we all get on, and obviously it's nice to see your friends and nice to see everyone again, but it's also just nice to be there as part of the national team and representing your country. So that is very nice when you're living abroad.
Fiona Brown, are you telling me when it got to 1-1 the other night, there wasn't any wee nervousness crept into your mind and everybody else's mind?
No, absolutely not.
Where you go?
Play it cool. No, I think we were trying to play it. We were trying to play it cool, but absolutely not. We were all looking up, trying to find out the score, and obviously concentrating on the game, but I think by the last 5 minutes, I honestly don't know what happened in the game 5 minutes, because we were just waiting to hear when the other game finished. So we needed obviously the result in the other game again, Poland against Switzerland. So we needed Switzerland to drop points, a draw or to get beat. So for that to happen, they finished 1 minute before us as well. So we knew in the last minute, which was unbelievable.
Do you know, Fiona, we were talking, I think it was after the Switzerland game here, that it was obviously going to the last two games, and we're saying that, really hope the crowd increases and gets behind them, obviously when you played at St Mirren. But, I know Malmo very well. An ex-teammate of mine, Robert Pritz, from Malmo, and we used to, when I was at Rangers, we used to go pre-season training there, so I know it's a wonderful part of the country. But, as far as Sweden's concerned, is the game bigger in Sweden, do you think, than it is in Scotland currently?
Yeah, it is, but I think the thing is as well, Sweden's had a professional league for a long, long time. So they've been through all the teething stages, they've been through the ups and the downs, and I think now it's quite a stable league, and they do get a lot of support. Obviously, there's a lot more investment over here than back home in the Scottish League. I think there's so much quality back home in the Scottish League still, but without that investment, it's hard. The girls can't be professional, they can't train full time, they have to do other things to live. So I think that's probably the biggest thing, and they've had that investment for such a long time now that the league's developed and settled and quite stable. So I would say that's the biggest difference. And
do you get are the crowds bigger in Sweden than Scotland?
Yeah.
Yeah. What kind of crowd average do you get?
We down in Malmo we've got quite a good support. Obviously we're in a city, so I honestly don't actually know the exact number, but we play in, you'll probably know it, I haven't been here, but we play in at Malmo at Ypres. So
it's about 7,000, I think, the stadium holds, if I remember.
The stadium in there, so it's not full every week. Obviously they've got side standing at the side, but both sides are quite full each week, so we get a very decent crowd, and other teams in the league get well over 2,000 most games and stuff, which compared to back home is quite a lot. But I think over here they're the same as back home. They're working constantly to try and improve that and increase the numbers and increase the interest in the game.
Fiona, I know that Shelley and the rest of the squad would never have taken anything for granted going into that game against Albania, but there must have been quite a high level of confidence, bearing in mind that you had scudded them 5-0 back in October.
Yeah, obviously we were confident going into the game. We knew that we had a better team, and if we play well, we would beat them, as we showed back last year. But at the same time, those kind of games are the ones that are actually tougher. We're away from home. The pitch maybe isn't the best. It was very warm. Teams like that tend to sit in a lot. It's hard to break them down, and it is frustrating. So for us, it was more just not letting them frustrate us and play our own game, and we knew we would be fine. But we were confident going into the game, but obviously we give our opponents a lot of respect, and no matter who we're playing, we do the same preparation. So.
And have you got any vision yet, or any sight of what Shelley's plans are for the team in terms of preparation and build up to the World Cup finals next season? I mean, do you know any friendlies that you're going to be playing? Have you been given any idea of what the build up's going to be? Whether there's going to be any special training camps and such, like kind of not just before the World Cup, but throughout the next few months?
Honestly, after the game, obviously we were all very, very happy, as everyone was.
Drunk as a skunk.
There wasn't much chat of that. We left actually right after. We left that night, so to fly home again. Obviously, the flights and stuff from Albania are not the most regular, so there wasn't really any chat like that so far with the players anyway, but everything will already be in motion, and Shelley and Andy and all the staff will be already working on a schedule and building it up. But I think we'll find out about that soon. But at the moment, we don't really know. It wasn't really discussed the other night. Everyone was too shocked and happy. So I think it will be thought out very well and planned out to play teams that maybe we don't get to play all the time. So that's the hope. But there will definitely be friendlies and training camps, and I have no doubt about that.
Yeah, your squad back in Sweden, though, there's obviously a lot of Swedes in it. There's Danes, there's Germans, and did you get a bit of stick when you went back? Did they give you a bit of stick that you qualified? Because I would imagine that Sweden, I would assume, are a team that would qualify, and Germany are a team that would qualify. So you'll be up against a lot of your teammates, I would imagine.
Yeah, well, we've actually got quite a few in the team. From different places. We've got a Norwegian girl as well, and they also qualified, so it was really nice coming back today actually, and everyone was so pleased and happy, and they all knew it was our first time, of course, but they were chuffed, and Denmark are actually in the playoffs, so those girls were saying that they were really happy and stuff for us as well. So yeah, I think it's just so exciting that we could all be playing against each other, and obviously it's good for our team as well, having so many players representing their countries at the World Cup. So everyone was really delighted, and it was actually really nice to be part of it for once, part of everyone that's qualified instead of being on the other side. So I think that was nice. Well,
listen, it was a magnificent achievement, and all the best to all of you, and congratulations once again. Really, really a fantastic lift for Scottish football. And as I say, you've written your place in the history books, so well done for that. Fiona, thanks for coming on tonight and talking to us, and I dare say we'll be talking to you and other squad members ahead of next year's World Cup.
Yeah, I hope so. Thanks very much.
Cheers. Bye-bye. There you are. Fiona Brown talking to us about Scotland's win in Albania earlier on in the week to qualify for the Ladies' World Cup, which happens in France next season. Davey, I started this conversation at eye level with you, and for some reason best known to themselves, maybe Alec, maybe Liz Clark, maybe somebody has changed the seat that I usually have for this thing, and now I look like Jimmy Cranky.
I was actually going to say that
here.
myself, actually.
So I'm going to take a quick break.
By the way, you've shrunk, Bill. I tell you,
I cannot believe this.
It's that diet you're on. It's unbelievable.
I cannot believe it. I started, in fact, I think I started higher than you. And look at me now. Well, I'm down among the dead men.
That tells you something.
Eh?
That tells you something.
Unbelievable. I'll take a quick break. We'll come back. We're talking football, as we always do, Monday to Friday between 6 and 8 on RockSport Radio. Thank you for joining us. You can listen on DAB Digital Radio, online at rocksportradio.co.uk. And if you're travelling and you're listening via your smartphone, it should be via the TuneIn app if you're using an iPhone, or the TuneIn app, or the Radiogram app if you're using an Android phone. You can also watch the programme, and you can do that on Facebook, Twitter and Periscope. Get in touch on 0333 9442, or you can do what you normally do and just bombard us with tweets at RockSport DAB. Here's a couple just before we go to the break. I take it the Women's World Cup will be televised. Yes, it will, usually on BBC 2 or Channel 4, I think. Or has there been any stations interested in showing it at club level? Saying that, it's hard enough to get the men's game televised to a decent standard. Big congratulations to all the women's team and staff. Here's another one. If clubs are only willing to offer managers contracts of 1 year, why should managers have any loyalty to them? In the real world, you say thank you, but I have a better offer elsewhere. Clubs sack managers willy-nilly, but are not long in mourning when managers leave, which was the point I was talking about a little bit earlier on. We'll take that break. We'll come back. I'll get a higher chair, and we'll talk more football.
Love music, live sport. Talking football with Bill Young and David MacKinnon on RockSport Radio.
Can I just say a big thank you to everybody who's downloaded the podcast over the last couple of months, few months. 107,000, we thank you. And don't forget, after tonight's show, it will be available again. You can re-watch the show on the Facebook or Twitter pages, and you can also listen to the podcast, as I know some people like to do. That's on Podbean, on Spotify, on iTunes, on Google, actually all the normal podcast platforms, and you can get it also.
Well, do you know something, Bill? And I'm just not just saying this because I'm on the programme, but I listened to your interview last night at the start of the programme with Ali, and the Partick Thistle ghost goal. It's one of the funniest things I've heard in my life. So I actually downloaded the podcast myself.
Did you?
And listened to it because it's comedy gold, isn't it?
It was.
Do you know something as well, though? You know that I know the referee very well, Barry Cook from Renfrew. Decent, lovely guy, and he must be.
Why didn't he see it then?
Well, I don't know. He's a very good referee, but
he was standing looking at the goal.
I know, but the linesman didn't really help him, did he?
Well, I told you the linesman had his mobile phone watching Sky Sports. I think he thought his coupon. He's checking his scores to see if his coupon's looking good.
So 107,000 downloads. That's spectacular.
107,000.
So I'm sure if anyone's listening that they've not heard last night with Ali Graham in the interview with yourself and the goal scorer, the Partick Thistle ghost goal, then it's comedy gold. So listen to that.
It was. I mean, but actually, having said that, Chris told the story really well as well.
But it was almost like some players are guarded when they talk to the media, but the gift you've got that they open up to you. But I couldn't believe when he says I went over the linesman and all this kind of thing, and players were the defender kicked it out the parks and they were shouting and swearing and all that. I can see it, and I could his celebration wasn't that good considering. But I mean, that's just one of these things. You cannot believe these things happen. Crazy time.
But how bizarre is it that that's the second time there's been a goal similar to that?
The same end, apparently, wasn't it?
It was the exact same.
Was it Les Mottram?
It was Les Mottram, yeah.
United, and Jim McLean's going crazy.
Yeah, Jim was having a seizure at the side of the park. But Les Mottram, yeah, it was.
Unbelievable.
But I have to say, Chris Doolan last night was just... if you haven't heard it, have a listen to it.
It was great.
I think we might have put it back on the feed as well, the Twitter feed and the Facebook feed earlier on today, because so many people were talking about it and wanted to hear it. But it was great. It gave away the money, which was his goal scoring bonus to charity, which was fantastic.
Good. No, all credit to him. But it'd have been a different story from what they'd won 1-0, believe me.
Oh well, I mean that's what Chris was saying last night. Chris Doolan was saying last night that it was literally one goal that sent them to relegation last season because of the goal difference.
Yep, and that's what happens, And I remember the classic, saying for a player, the first time I ever heard it, Gordon Strachan, when I played with it at Dundee, if we get a decision against us at Dundee, he used to go to the referee, "This is my livelihood." He said, "You're only playing." Very good. He's quite right, of course.
Yeah, but I mean, it was a funny story. But when you see it, I don't understand why neither the linesman or the referee saw that.
Barry will be beating himself up because he's a lovely big guy and a good referee, but that's one. And I think the other thing is I
wonder how badly it affects him on the assessor in terms of being marked down.
Well, you're right. Well, the thing is, hopefully the assessor up in the stands saw it as well. But it's just
they've all seen it now because it's all over YouTube and everywhere else.
You're right, and I think the thing is it'll go around the world, and it'll be one of these ones that Venezuelan TV will be saying, "No, Scotland." Goal line technology.
Do you know one of the strange things, and it's probably one of the most haunting things for an official now, is that there's always some wise guy with a phone who's taking video, and within seconds it is back on Twitter or Facebook or Periscope or wherever. There was a still of it in Instagram within seconds.
Was it in the first half? Yeah, was it in the first half?
I can't remember which half
well,
it was.
Anyway, the referee, if it was in the first half, the referee would have known at half time the faux pas, and it's incredible, you know. And I just think that. You know, does it do Scottish football any good? Because the other thing is, like, you know, let's be honest. You know, that end of the ground is not the one that you want to show throughout the world for Scottish football, do you? You know, where it's the grass and there's nettles and the wee boy gets stung. You know, with the thing where it's live in Sky or BT. Remember that? The wee boy stung it, and you know, he goes to the end to get the ball, and he's stung with a nettle. And that, you know, people always think about Scottish football.
I know.
Here we are, the Championship, and you know,
but you know what?
Wilderness.
They might have been thinking about Scottish football that way, but we've just redressed that by having Fiona Brown on and reminding them, it was the second half, the goal, by the way, and reminding them that Scotland, for the first time in 20 years, at any level, have qualified for a World Cup. I was going to say something to you, Bill. Do you think, given not very often, Davey, if I can help it,
given the fact that the Tartan Army don't get to World Cups, do you think that they will go en masse to the World Cup?
Well, here's the thing. Do you think they should?
I think they should.
I do.
I think they should, because it's in France, a nice place to go during the summer. You know, it'll be interesting. Maybe we can ask maybe Hamish Husband sometime
maybe what we'll do,
whether
they're
going to get the army over there, because you know.
Well, why wouldn't they?
With any battle?
Why wouldn't they?
Apparently turn up for any battle. So that's one they could go and quite easily.
We've been stood down for a little while, though. Let's be honest.
I know it's not quite national service, but that I would imagine that. Given the fact that they love a party and they add considerable value to any tournament, I think, you know, that what will happen is there'll be a campaign. There'll always be a campaign. Sign up to go to France, and you know, irrespective of the games, I think they'll go and support the team. So I think do you know one thing it'll do? Not just because they've qualified,
boost the sales of Cronenberg.
Well, it'll hugely add to the value of women's football in Scotland. I've got no doubt about it.
I am absolutely sure it already has, from what I'm hearing, and that's no bad thing. But you know that the amount of girls playing football from I think 2013 until now has almost doubled.
Well, that tells you something, you know. And I think that, as I explained to you, my daughter Ailey was a great player in primary school, but couldn't go into a team in secondary, or indeed find a club. But she'd have been. I've got no doubt she'd have been a Scottish international. She used to tackle.
Never.
She used to tackle a lot.
Ailey would be too bothered as she got older about chipping nail polish and stuff like that.
She used to chip a lovely winger because she was a right back. I'm telling you, dirty. I don't know where she got it from.
No, neither do I. Telling me she had studs on the seat of her pants as well.
Anyway, it's great. It's a great achievement, and I think the country, they've done the country proud, and you know, I think that, you know, I'm certainly looking forward to it. And you know, when would you ever see if be honest with us, see if the Women's World Cup's on? You don't really watch it, but if Scotland will be watching it, I've got absolutely no doubts about it.
Davey, I'm going to ask you about the World Cup in general, because, you know, and you'll see where I'm coming from when we get to this now. Scotland, I reported this last week, but apparently it's ongoing. Mm-hmm. Scotland speaking to all the other home nations about a bid for the 2030 World Cup. Now, I find this just absolutely stunningly naive and ironic, in as much as we have an absolute battle going on about where we're going to play national games for the national team. We can't make up our mind whether it's going to be Hampden or Murrayfield. How can we legitimately move forward to talk to anyone about any contribution that we might make to that World Cup if we were to put a bid in, when we keep dragging our feet about making decisions? And we've done it for months now. We took too long to appoint a chief exec after Stuart Regan went. We went too long appointing Alec McLeish as the national coach. And we've taken too long deciding whether we stay at Hampden or we go to Murrayfield. It is a damn disgrace the way that we're focusing on talking to people about, shall we put in a joint bid and host this, when we don't even know if we've got got a park.
No, I know, and I think the other thing is that, what was astounding to me was that they took all these months. I mean, remember when Stuart Regan was here, I think you're probably talking, was it March when he started? It was coming out about we may be moving.
Yeah.
They were trying to put pressure under Queen's
There's been
Park.
4 ultimatums. There's been 4 7-day ultimatums by the SFA to Queen's Park.
Yeah, and they last Wednesday, they said they wanted further information.
That's right, and gave it 7 days again. Now here's something for you.
This is 8 days.
That's right. Let me ask you a question. What do you call an ultimatum that isn't acted on? An idle threat.
An idle threat. I was just going to say that. But no, you're right. And I think that the thing is, it does everybody a disservice. But do you know something? I think...
Sorry, tweet just came in. Great idea. Let's all bid for the World Cup to have the final in England. I love my audience.
Do you know something?
Do you know what I'm disappointed with?
What's that?
I was sure, and I told you all in the office, I was sure somebody would cotton on and make a comment, and nobody has yet. Well, you know what it was about. Your felt tip pen. Don't say any more.
Oh,
don't, because they haven't said anything. And I want to see if we get through the whole of the show without some wise guy making a comment.
Let me say,
don't give them any clues.
All I'm saying to you is that they must be watching in black and white.
Don't give them any clues.
If anybody's listening and they've got access to Facebook or Twitter to actually see the live feed, I would tune in just now, just to have a wee look at Bill and see. There we go. There's the quiz of the night. What do you think about Bill and his attire?
You've already given it away now.
I've not. No, I've not. I've just said that here's the clue, and people will come up with their own ideas, and I'm sure they'll be watching in black and white.
Yeah. I'm just surprised we've got to 25 to 7.
It's that number 8.
And nobody's made some kind of quip.
It's that number 8 in your back that I'm worried about, or is that a target?
Probably a target. But I mean, this is the whole thing. And I mean, already Ian Maxwell is getting pelters in the press. Yeah. I mean, what was the headline that we looked at earlier on?
Are you Stuart Regan in disguise?
Are you Regan in disguise?
They don't
I'm sorry.
They don't miss the target.
It's too early for quips like that.
Yeah.
And if you're a Scotland fan, or if you're no, you see, you've missed it completely. You forgot to iron your shirt, Bill. You've missed it completely. Yeah. See, I thought somebody would jump on it straight away, and they haven't.
But Ian's not a guy that will stand up and lead from the front. I think he's a guy who's going in and he'll be trying to work behind the scenes.
Is he too much of a thinker rather than a doer?
Well, what does Scotland need? I think
Scotland needs somebody with radical ideas and with real gumption.
Someone who's prepared to stand up and actually say what's the best for the game. I think that's what they hope that Ian will do, and maybe he's just choosing his time. To the right time when he's ready for it, because
the right time's gone though.
But you know something, the frustration for me is, I would imagine, unless there's some radical thing that's happened at that board meeting last Wednesday, a week yesterday, about the decision-making process for Hampden or Murrayfield, unless something radical has happened, they will have an idea what they're going to do. Now, what they're maybe trying to do is make out a wee bit more money from someone to make it happen. But see if they know what's happening. Put people out their misery. But do you know something?
They must know what's happening, because how can they enter into negotiations with the other home nations, right?
You're right.
With Northern Ireland, with Wales, with England. How can they enter into those negotiations and say, right, we want to do this, and we'll put in X amount of stadia from each country, but we'll have to let you know later on how we're doing it.
It would astound me. It would really astound me as a guy that's been involved in football for many years if they didn't choose Hampden. It would astound me because, and the other thing is, like, from a business perspective, I've rattled on about this, Bill, but the big money earner for the SFA is the Hampden concerts.
Yeah.
But they will not have a sniff of that when it goes to Murrayfield, because Murrayfield hold the concerts. They will not have a sniff of it. So that revenue and that profit will go directly to Murrayfield. That will come out their books. So there's no way economically, I can see that Scotland would move to Murrayfield.
Right.
Really don't know.
Well, I've got a funny feeling it's going to roll on for a wee bit longer, but we'll cut it short there. And we'll go and speak to a gentleman that we've spoken to before, Coleraine Chairman Colin McKendry. Got a wee feeling of deja vu, Colin?
Yeah, Bill. It's
last time we spoke, Oran was in the frame for that St Mirren job. Bring us up to date, if you would, my good friend.
Yeah. Listen, Tony Fitzpatrick and made contact with me on, I believe it was late Tuesday evening, and it was a telephone call I wasn't wanting, and I think he knew it as well, but. Anyway, he made the phone call and to ask if he would speak to Oran, or if he could speak to Oran, and himself and his chairman flew over to meet Oran the next morning. And at the stage here, I believe that they've made an offer to Oran. Oran's now currently going over that, and as yet, no decision has been made in relation to Oran accepting the post at this stage.
How do you feel about it, Colin?
Listen, as I said the last time, in football, it's a game that you've got to take every opportunity that arises, and this is certainly an opportunity for Oran. In footballing terms, it's a Premier League club in Scotland, and for a chance for Oran coming from a club like ourselves to pit his wits against the likes of Brendan and Stephen Gerrard and Neil Lennon, Robbo from over here, Big Tommy Wright. So I think it's a great opportunity for him in footballing terms. The last time, possibly over from Jack Ross, could have been an Alex Ferguson scenario. Whoever came behind him, possibly the big boots to fill there, and in the fans' perspective. Whereas at this stage now. They are where they are, and what's happened. So going forward, it possibly gives them a chance to reignite the fans and reunify the fans and get the team going where he wants it, where the club would like to see them going. And yeah, I have total respect for them, and it's all about the opportunities out there, and there's not often these opportunities come along. So I believe that he has to grasp it with both hands. From a personal point of view, but from a club's point of view, we'll be sad to see him go, because he's done a wonderful job with ourselves.
Colin, it's David MacKinnon here. That's very refreshing, coming from a chairman, because we've had a situation in Scotland here where manager left Morton, and the chairman or the owner of the club's come out and pretty concerned about it that he's left. But I think you're sounding very philosophical about it, which is great, because I think that the thing is that you've got a really well run club, and. Do you have a succession plan? And if he goes, is there already somebody that you think that would maybe just come in and work the way that you want your club to work?
Yeah, we're very clear, Dave, where we would like the club to go. I know I am anyway, and the board, we have it's no short measure or no short term. What we would like to do, we've grown, and as I say, Oran is a big part of what has happened at our club over the last 2 to 3 years. Yeah, we had some lean years, do not get me wrong, since I got involved. But over the last lot of years, both on and off the field, we have progressed massively. And Oran has been an absolute star. He's been the number one for me in relation to how that happens, because we all know everything's relevant to what happens in the first team pitch. And if you get success there, it brings success, as long as it's managed correctly, it brings success off the pitch. And we, as a club, are in a much better place now than when Oran found the club, or whenever we appointed Oran at the club. Succession planning at this stage, no, is the short answer to that there. I'm quite sure there'll be a number of people who will be monitoring this situation very, very closely, because the club is a good club, it's a very well-run club, and we try and do things the correct way. And if Oran decides tonight to move on, the club is now sitting where whoever would come in would have a good basis a good foundation, because the players are signed long term, and it's the period is finished, the transfer window is gone, so he's got his players now to Christmas time to move on. So yes, the club, whoever would or whoever may come in would find a very good club.
Colin, forgive me, and I don't mean to be rude, but I talk to so many people on the programme, sometimes I don't know who I've spoken to when. The last time we spoke, did we not have a conversation, I'm hoping it was you, where I asked about Oran's contract and you said it was a kind of handshake between the both of you?
Yeah, basically we have a verbal agreement.
Thank God for that, it was you.
Yeah, we have a verbal agreement. We have a contract in place, but we also have a verbal agreement, and it's on work for many years without a contract, and came through some rough times with our club, and we stuck by Oran because we knew what he was doing behind the scenes in relation to bringing youth. And we were always that year short, and it was always a what if we could wait another 6 months, or if we could get another year, or if we could just get him past another couple of games, and it would add because as a left back maybe we needed or whatever, so all of those things were all relevant to the rough years, and Oran at that stage was coming under pressure, and we all were coming under pressure to let him go, but we stuck by him, and thank goodness we stuck by him, because we did know what was happening behind the scenes and the structures he was putting in place, and those need time to mature. And I was heavily involved behind the scenes because of my youngsters playing for the youth team and so forth. So I knew exactly what was going on, and it's the same with St Mirren. There's no golden egg out there. There's no given right that you have to win every game or you're going to win every game. So I think you have to be realistic in your aspirations, So I think that's where we got to.
Sorry, David, go on.
No, just Colin, I was just going to ask you, if he does go to St Mirren, what kind of manager are St Mirren getting as far as that?
Swine, you've just stolen my next question.
Well, I've read his mind, of course, but what kind of manager are St Mirren getting? Are they getting a shouter? Are they getting an organiser?
No,
what are they getting?
Listen, I can tell you what they're getting, and I've just spoken there today about it. They'll not get someone who will lose complete control. Oran's a very structured, professional, intelligent and intellectual young man. He's very, very media savvy. He speaks very well in public speaking. He addresses people. He doesn't do things by text message. He meets people face to face. He has clear vision of how he wants the game played, and he has a clear vision of how a club operate and how players should conduct themselves. He's a very, very structured individual, and he sets rules. He sets high standards for himself, and he'll set high standards for his playing staff and his backroom staff and anybody involved in the club in that capacity. And he is a very fair man. He's a professional outside of football in his teaching career, and he teaches children. So I know a lot of times people say school teachers don't make good managers, but Oran's got the structure about him that he knows when to leave the school teacher at the dressing room door and become a grown-up, speaking to grown-up adults, but has a great way of putting himself over and getting his point across. So, no, listen, if he does go, they'll be getting an absolute star. And someone I have said that if he's at this stage, he has 2 jobs in Coleraine and in his school teaching career, and if he was able to donate time to the full-time football, of which he may be able to do, I have no doubt he will be a success both on and off the pitch there.
Colin, when Jack Ross left and we had our previous conversation, you must have kind of had a feeling of foreboding that someone had discovered Oran, and it was just a matter of time before you got that call, if not from Tony Fitzpatrick, from somebody.
Yeah, it was like, and whenever it came out of the blue, I wouldn't say that it really did come out of the blue, because subconsciously I knew what was going on, how Oran was being noticed, and it was just small things that I was noticing in paper comments and national team manager speaking to him about him, looking at how he was bringing 21s through, giving me the minutes that they were on the pitch, all of that there. So it was being noticed at the highest level within our country and been spoken about with the national team manager, Michael, and he was doing the stats on it and how our young lads were being given time on the pitch. So whilst it was always one of those that, yes, you always thought it may come, but you were not wanting it to come, but there was no doubt that Oran was being noticed because of what he was doing, because of his beliefs and because of how he went about it and how he portrayed himself on national television and through the media.
It's not an easy job, Colin, because of course St Mirren have just come up this season. Alan Stubbs wasn't there for any great length of time, so there's and Davey will tell you, Buddy's fans are not the most tolerant in the world if things are not going right at St Mirren. So it's a difficult job. You were saying about Oran in terms of what his personality's like, but he's going to have a little bit of steel and a bit of grit with this one, I would think. I'm assuming you feel confident that if he does make the decision, that he's got that as well to handle the situation.
Oh, absolutely no doubting of that. Absolutely no doubting that he has just what you've said, the steel and grit there, because for someone to come through what he came through at our club, Oran came from a junior club to our club and didn't hit the ground running, had a good year, then it dipped, and you have to bear in mind there was one year he didn't win a game for 9 games, and it was during that time that I saw the real Oran coming out. And I mean, the fighting qualities, the steel and the grit, and the steely determination to come through this, to show I can do this. I do believe in what I'm doing. Given time, I will make this work. Now, I know and I'm aware of the Alan Stubbs situation in relation to the length of time he was given. I would say they're totally different characters, and I don't know Alan. But I would say Oran is just completely different. He will go about his business completely different. And yes, I'm aware, actually, I've been told that. I've spoke to 2 today, by the way, and it is, they seem they don't suffer fools gladly for like that.
Colin, the other good thing is he's got a pretty easy, if he does decide to go, he's got a very pretty easy first game against Celtic, live on TV, so that'll sort him out.
Yeah.
At least him and Brendan will speak the same language.
Yeah, absolutely. They'll understand each other on the sideline. So,
well, that's maybe when you hopefully that Tony Fitzpatrick, he's a friend of mine, Tony, a really decent guy, and if you do, if he does leave, I think Tony, should be asking you over, you and your family, for the weekend, to spend the weekend in his beachside resort.
Yeah, absolutely. No, listen. Oran had actually just Monday past we played Crusaders here in the Sky Sports game, top of the table clash here. So that's what we were laughing about it there the other day whenever this became clear, and it was that we were. Or you're going to be on Sky again, but if you take us, but you're going to be looking across at Brendan. It's unreal, it's surreal. He says so. When
do you expect some kind of decision to be made on this one, Colin? If I may ask.
Yeah, well, listen, I have spoken to Oran today. Oran has been to school today, and he has spoken to obviously his people there. Footballing wise, I think decisions are already made. If not, they're small. Without giving it away, I think a small detail that needs clearly defined and just clarified. And I think that's the footballing aspect of it taken care of. But there's the family aspect and the logistics of travel, commute, stay, or whatever. All of that has to be decided with Oran and his family, because the one thing I will tell you is he's a very family-oriented young man. And that will play a massive part in any decision that he may make.
Well, there's good travel links. You're all right, because I spent 5 years in Belfast, and I used to fly out on a Monday morning, back on a Friday afternoon. So he'll find it a breeze.
That would be no issue.
Can I ask you one thing, just slightly changing the tack, Colin, if it's okay? I see that you've decided to join the Scottish Challenge Cup, and you've got Highland League Formantin on Saturday night. Seems a strange, team coming from the Highland League playing you at 8:15 at night. What's the reason behind that? Is it live on TV or something?
They need to swim.
No.
Is it just the boat doesn't come in later on?
I'll tell you, it's a international break, you see, and Northern Ireland being at home, and we can't play 5 hours. You can't play 5 hours before the game.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Because it's one of those rules that are there in place. And then the Sunday issue over here is quite a thorny issue.
Yeah.
And it probably didn't suit the other team that's coming over, and they did have travel difficulties, and I do believe they are chartered to Derry Airport, and it leaves them in about 5 or 6. So I think they're okay in relation to that side of things. But ideally, we'd like 3 o'clock, but you're competing against Northern Ireland playing Bosnia, so.
It's a costly thing, obviously, for them. Are you embracing this? Is this something you want to maybe to go further in? Because obviously you're sitting at the top of the league after 5 games, so you're coming with a bit of pedigree, and I think probably it lets you see, playing against teams from the Scottish League, because you would imagine that you would hopefully progress to the next round, and is it something that you want to embrace?
Certainly, we used to play the St Panta Cup over here, All Ireland Cup, and we had taken part in it a few times. And this is a new adventure, and it's also for the fans. It's reachable by playing both, whatever, depending on who we draw within this, because we've got teams from Wales and now Boreham Wood and that down in England. So it's a new thing. One thing I have to say. It's like another game to us now, although our league game has been pushed back to a Tuesday game, which sort of gives you 3 games in a week, which is not ideal for part-time footballers. But we would like to progress. And obviously the financial rewards, whilst they're not as good as we would all like, but there's certainly financial reward in it the further you go in it. And Crusaders, I think, were beaten last year by maybe Livingston or Dundee in the quarter-final stage. So yes, we would like to progress, and although it didn't impact on their season because they pipped us by 2 points at the end of the year to win the league. But obviously they have a bigger panel, and for our club, we're not the biggest of panels, so it's something that we will have to look at. But listen, it's a new competition. It's like anything. You want to win every game of football you play in, be it a 5-a-side or be it a training game and a training pitch. And anybody that doesn't, well, they shouldn't be playing football, in my opinion. You want to try and win it as far as you can. So
that's brilliant, and I see your famous fan, Jimmy Nesbitt, the very famous. Maybe you'll see him when you get maybe a return game against Boreham Wood or something like that.
Yeah, he's down London way, so we'll get Jimmy to come along to that one. So he's been a big fan of ours, and he was very happy man, and his father was very happy, who travels to a lot of the games with the team, with myself actually, and he's an elderly man, and it was very fitting that we won the cup that day along with Jimmy being there and his father. So it was, I think we're nearly 90 odd years or something, and his father was the same, so it was very fitting. And
I've got bad news for you. The bracelet on his arm's going black now, and all the good luck that he's had goes when it turns completely black. So don't let him in. Colin, listen, thanks again for talking to us. It's always a pleasure talking to you, and you're always open and honest with us, which we love. So good luck at the weekend. There's not much I can say on the Oran front, to be honest with you, because it is what it is, pal, but that's the way football goes, and you know that better than most. So thanks for being on with us again.
Appreciate it. Thank you very much for your time.
Cheers. Bye-bye. There you are. Colin McKendry, the chairman of Coleraine, talking to us tonight about Oran Kearney, who looks as if they can get that one little footballing thing sorted, then that they can sort themselves out for taking them to St Mirren.
Yeah, that's
a wee bit of luck.
Yeah, I think I think, you know, Tony Fitzpatrick...
Is Tony gambling a bit with this?
No, I don't think so, because I think what they're trying to do is... Jack Ross has been a success, and you know, his manner and the way he went about his business, they're trying to replicate that. And I thought that, you know, being on the outside, I don't know Alan Stubbs very well, but I know he's a very good manager, and I think they were trying to, you know, almost like a doppelganger of Jack Ross, and it didn't quite work. By all accounts, you know, what Colin's talking about Orton, he seems to be almost like a carbon copy of Jack, you know, that kind of reserved manner and supportive of things. So,
Davey, you and I both know Jack's got a temper. It's just when you see it.
I know. Maybe Orton's got one as well. But you know, but I think that, you know, I don't know if it's a gamble for St Mirren, but at the end of the day, you know, they've made the decision, rightly or wrongly, to change the manager, and this one will have to work for them, and that's the pressure that they're under.
Still, nobody has twigged, or nobody's made a comment. Here's one for you. This is great. I love our audience. Scotland needs to use proper tools to promote and invest in football instead of hiring tools to run it. Simple. Oh, good grief.
Superb. So nobody's guessed exactly what you're...
Well, nobody's commented on it.
Well, that's fine.
Which is great. I have no problems with it at all, but I was just surprised because there's always somebody ready to have a
Well, the big
crack.
thing is I remember that jersey, but it was in the years before sponsorship, Bill. Maybe that will give them a wee hint as well.
Listen, one of the things I wanted to talk to you about, Aston Villa and Scotland striker Ross McCormick poised to join up with former sprint king Usain Bolt. They're going to be playing together for Central Coast Mariners in Australia. Ross McCormick's been to Australia once, come back, and now it seems like he's off there again. I didn't realise Bolt was over there.
Bernie the Bull. Did you know? No,
no, I didn't. To be honest with you,
no, I did know, and
I didn't. That one went right past me.
He played in a friendly, and he almost scored, and he was interviewed. And the good thing is about, you know, Ross likes somebody else to do the running for him.
Well, he'll be all right there.
He's absolutely all right. But you're right. He was out there in Melbourne in loan. He knows Australia well, and you know he's had a huge amount of contracts. A lot of teams. I understand that he was up to the 11th hour. He was going to be coming on loan to Rangers, and for some reason, at the last minute, it was changed and he didn't go. So I think he was extremely disappointed because I understand that all the work was done. And a contract with it, the details were done, the whole thing, and then Rangers, I think, chose not to do it.
I fed that on the Twitter feed because obviously Dances with Bears, and my Indian spirit guide. No, we don't want to know yours. No. I told everybody on Twitter who yours was, so they know.
No, okay.
But I couldn't say it on radio. But Dances with Bears, my Indian spirit guide, told me about the Ross McCormick situation, and at the time I thought, I'm not sure if this is going to happen, and everybody that responded to it as a Rangers fan, it was about 50-50 whether they wanted him back or not.
Well, it was, as I understand it, having been told by someone very, very close to the deal only today about it, that someone that knows the game very, very, very well, that told me that it went to the 11th hour, and Rangers decided to pull out and bring someone else in. So I think Ross McCormick was disappointed, but you know, at the end of the day, he's a player that you know, for some reasons get a lot of bad press, but he's an exceptional player.
But his career has kind of gone off track a little bit, or did go off track a little bit.
Yeah, well, he's 32 now, Bill, as well, of course.
Yeah.
And he's played, you know, he's played for some top teams, played for Rangers, obviously. You know, the big thing for me when he went to Leeds, I think that was at the peak between 210 and 214. Went to Fulham, Aston Villa. When he went to Aston Villa, I think they paid a lot of money for him, and I think that you know, there was a wee bit of turmoil at the club, and I think that affected him. But you know, at the end of the day, you know, play as long as you can, and if he's out, I mean, I've just looked up, is that Aston Villa paid £12 million for him. I remember at the time people were saying, why are they bidding and why are they paying that for him? But £12 million, that's what he went. And he was basically, he went to Fulham from Leeds for 11 million. So he's gone for 11 million and 12 million now. That's big money. So I don't think he'll have to get a job as a pundit in the radio after this. But
no, you're probably right.
But so anyway, get out there, Australia. It's high profile in the fact that it's watching some of the games live. There's big crowds there, and obviously Usain Bolt playing with him, that'll be something for his catalogue when he decides to pack it in. Okay,
we were talking about the ladies qualifying for the World Cup a wee bit earlier on, and we do talk about football, and we support football across central Scotland at every level. Tonight there's a match going on at Tynecastle, Scotland under-21s against Andorra under-21s. Our man there, and bringing us bang up to date with what's happening in terms of the pre-match, here's Bob Smith.
Yeah, good evening to you, Bill. And there's no doubt at all, Scott Gemmell's side were in a high after reaching the last round of the prestigious Toulon tournament for the second year in succession, and hope to take them into the game at Tynecastle tonight. We're still waiting on the crowds coming in, but it's a nice night. But it won't be an easy match because it took an equaliser in the 90th minute. The last time they played in Andorra, a 1-1 draw, and where Scotland sit just now, they're in the third equal place in the group. So a win is vital today. When you look at the players, and I'm going to take it on their shoulders, I'm going to announce the full Scotland names for the players rather than just the second name, because these players, when you hear them, are going to be big players. And what a chance for these young men to shine and force their way into the national squad. And, they've got a new management team. They're desperate to prove they're good for the Scottish game. So, coming along and watching these guys tonight is going to be great. So I'm looking forward to just letting these names hopefully trip off the tongue, Bill. And, so I would just say to the lads, grab the initiative, do your manager and your folks proud in a game that I'm thoroughly looking forward to. And, when you consider, this is the last thing, the next 3 games are against Holland, Ukraine and England. And that's, if you like, in running order. So it's going to be a difficult one to try and reach that next stage. But who knows, a good result might do it. So for Scotland in goals, it's Ryan Fulton, Liam Smith, David Bates, Ryan Porteous, Fraser Hornby, Michael Johnson, Stevie Marlin, Billy Gilmer, Chris Cadden, Ryan Williamson and Ross McCrory. The subs, Robbie McCrory, Tom McIntyre, Lewis Ferguson, Frank Ross, Oliver Shaw, Kyle McGuinness and Alan Campbell. When you think about these names, what are we going to be saying in 2 years' time, I wonder? For Andorra in goals, it's Iker, De Pablos, Bobby, Garcia, Martinez, Riaz, Fernandez, Nazara, Grasampa, Validot and Pomari. Their subs, Pires, Marie, Cabana, Sanchez, Valles, William, Del Castilla and Jan. The referee this evening is Dejan Jamikamowski, and this is Smith for RockSport Radio at Tynecastle Park, Scotland under-21s versus Andorra under-21s. Over to you, Bill.
Thanks, Bob. We'll be back with you at full time, of course, and listen, when you listen to some of those young men, and Bob's right, these are the stars of the future, but some of them are actually starring roles now, and you think to yourself, and I don't mean this in a bad way against Andorra, you think to yourself, we with players of that quality should be beating a team like Andorra fairly comfortably, Davey.
Well, you would think so, that Andorra, they're kind of way up in the high mountains. And remember, they used to be like 20-0 team, so they're obviously maybe doing something right. But you're right, if you look at the team, Ross McCrory, Cadden, Chris Cadden, very, very good player. Marlin, the big one for me, and I've never seen him. I've heard a lot about him, and there's been obviously a lot of exposure, is Billy Gilmer. A young man who's obviously at Rangers. And 17. Gone down to Chelsea, isn't it? Is it Chelsea now?
Yeah, apparently the club are very protective of him as well.
Yeah, and, he seems to be playing with a smile on his face, but I've heard a lot of good things about him, and I just hope, I've seen players, go down south, at a young age and maybe just not make it, but, by all accounts, he's a star, and I just hope that they manage him properly. And he's again, I've heard he's a very down to earth kind of guy, which is good. So I wish him every success. The other guy who surprises me that he's on the bench is Lewis Ferguson, who's done so well since going to Aberdeen.
Yeah. One of the things I would say about Gilmour as well, just while we're on the subject, is that it is crucial that he has the right management and agents.
Yep.
That is really crucial for a boy that's being talked about in the way that he is, and at a club like Chelsea, it is all-consuming that he's got the right people looking after his interests.
Well, you're right, but I understand he's got his family down there with him, and I think that's one of the things Chelsea did to bring him the family down, because it's good. Because having gone to London when I was 16 as a player, it's a lonely place if you're going and training and then you're going home to digs, on your own. He won't be going to digs because he'll be earning a significant amount of money. He'll have his house wherever. But that time when you're away from training and you're on your own, particularly at a young age, becomes very, very difficult. It builds character, but there are times when you get down, you get homesick, you get depressed. So I'm pleased that, by all accounts, his family's gone down, and I think they'll manage him very well. I'd like to see him get a few games, in Chelsea, but I would imagine that they will put him out on loan somewhere. Ryan Gould's another player who's obviously gone to Portugal. He seems to be a guy who's habitually going and loan to different teams, and I don't know whether he was the kind of Billy Gilmour of his time, isn't he? So I don't know whether he's developing the way that everyone expected him to develop.
Well, they were talking about him as the kind of mini Messi, I think was the nickname they gave him.
It's always bad to get a nickname.
Well, it is, but back then, that's what they were kind of calling him, the mini Messi.
Yep.
But you're right, again, that seems to have kind of... His career seems to have stalled a little bit as well.
I'm just looking up his stats. He's now 22, right? And obviously played Dundee United, went to Portugal, played a few games. He's been in loan, but he's played with actually very good teams. I mean, he was at Alves in loan. Alves are a very good team. Farinese is on loan. He played 18 games with Alves, so he's a guy who's playing at a decent level, and I think he'll have a great education out there. But it's about what's success for a player like that. Is he a player that maybe wants at some stage would come and play for Rangers or Celtic, or get a move to the Premiership in England?
How old is he now, Ryan Gould?
He's 22. He's 22.
He's young.
Well, he's 23 in December, which is not that far away, unfortunately. But I just think that these development years, and he might come back. And again, I've never seen him playing, so I couldn't tell you whether he's good, bad, or indifferent. But when you get that kind of publicity about being a talented player, and the expectation levels become very, very high. So what's the expectation for him personally, and for the people that represent him, and indeed his club? So Billy Gilmour will go through the exact same thing when the expectations sometimes don't, basically it doesn't meet the expectations of other. I'm getting back to a player whose name escapes me, and I'm going to go back and try and find him, because I knew him actually very, very well at Tottenham. And he went down as a 17-year-old from Morton. Neil McNabb. Do you remember Neil
I do.
McNabb?
Yeah.
It's come to me now. But Neil McNabb, I knew him down at Arsenal because he was the same age as me, and he came down and signed for Tottenham. And, he played... I had a really good career, but I know when I met him down there, he came down in 1974, and because we were Scottish, the same age, we used to go about together, and he found it very, very difficult to adjust to life in London. He played with Morton. He only played 14 games for Morton, and they obviously signed him. I think it was over 200,000 or so on. But he found it difficult to get down there because he was doing the thing that I was talking about. He was staying in digs. And when you're great and you're involved...
Who were you staying with?
I was staying with Frank Stapleton and Liam Brady, which was a great education for me. Two guys from Dublin, very much Celtic supporters. They made it very clear what side of the bed I was sleeping on.
And where were you based in relation to Highbury?
Well, this is how strange it was, right? I signed for Arsenal, and I got a ticket, a rail ticket, delivered to the house, and an address. It was almost like Paddington Bear. So I went down with a suitcase. I arrived down at Euston. Obviously been down in trial in London at Chelsea and Spurs and Arsenal and various clubs down there, and I was given an address, and it was in Bounds Green, and so I got to Bounds Green Underground,
Victoria Line,
or the subway as I called.
Yeah, Victoria Line. You're laughing.
No, it was the Piccadilly Line.
Oh, was it Piccadilly Line?
So I got there, and I said to this guy when I came out of the station, I said, "Excuse me, mate, could you tell me where Bounds Green Road is?" "Pardon?" I said. So I had to speak in an English accent to get myself known, and unknown to me, it was a mile trek to the digs, and I arrived there, and I was saying, "Oh, that's me arrived," and I thought to myself, "This is
quite a way, Bounds Green to Finsbury Park."
Well, no, it wasn't Finsbury Park. I was staying in Bounds Green.
Oh, right, okay.
Right. So, and then what you did was you were told to be at the end of the road, and the bus would pick you up to go to training. So, obviously, those days have changed because, the big thing is my mother kindly used to phone me, and she said, "I was thinking about you because I heard Ralph McTell talking about walking the streets of London." I said, "Aye, Mum, I've been walking the streets of London." And the other thing is, what happened was Frank, Liam and I were staying in these digs, and we were training, double sessions and everything, cleaning the dressing room, double sessions. And I think it was probably beginning of September, they said to us, "You've got the afternoon off." So we came back to the digs and chapped, and the nice woman that had us in the digs said, "I'm sorry, but you'll need to come back after 5. I'm cleaning the place." So that was it, So we started singing that Ralph McTell. But I tell you what it did. It gave you a big education. But there was a lot of guys that I know, and Neil McNabb was one of them. He found it extremely difficult, and I think Liam Brady. What a player Liam Brady was. But Liam Brady actually went back to Ireland at one stage, because he said, "I can't take this. I'm going back to Ireland." And they had to go over and say to him, "By the way, you're an exceptional talent. Please come, and I'll put you in different digs for McKinnon."
I remember once my wife used to live in York, and I was living just outside London in Kent. And I went up to see her one weekend, and it was one of those weekends where I missed the train back. So the train I got was 10 to 2 in the morning. It got in at 10 to 2 in the morning, and I phoned my mother and said, "I missed the train. I'm at King's Cross." And my father said to me, "You'll not miss the train the next time, son. Walk from King's Cross to the Elephant and Castle and I'll pick you up." So I had to walk from King's Cross to the Elephant and Castle. I went round by the Oval on Kennington Road and walked. As I said, I had 2 big suitcases with me at that time, because you never had any of these wee daft things and wheels. And I walked from King's Cross to the Elephant and Castle. He could have picked me up at King's Cross, but he was determined I was getting taught a lesson, so that was that.
But I tell you,
and if you've ever walked in London at that time of the morning from down Caledonian Road a start, you know what I mean?
You better be lighting your feet there. But I tell you, no, it's right, and that's the thing about. It's changed completely now, Bill, but you tell people about that and they go, that never happened. But I'm telling you, these kind of things did. But it was a big education, and certainly, it was difficult at the time, but it gave me a huge amount. Do you think
young players like Billy Gilmore are under more pressure or less pressure now?
Well, I think because of social media, because of the exposure they get, I think they're under more pressure, because what would happen is that players, particularly when you're in England and you get down there and you play, the first time people start to notice you when they say, "Oh, well, he's maybe involved in the Scotland setup. Who are you playing with?" Or you get a bit of publicity, and people start to recognise that you've actually been with a club for a number of years, because now it's all over the media about Billy Gilmore and about this, and there's the other thing is I've not watched any of the goals, and forgive me for doing it. I promise I'll look at it, but there are. I see things cropping up, in various news agencies to say, watch Billy Gilmour score this magnificent goal for Chelsea, and I've never watched one of them, but he's getting a lot of exposure, so expectation comes with that. But at the end of the day, I wish him every success, because Scotland needs these under 21 players to come through to the full team, don't they?
And it's been a while since we've had such a good crop of under 21s or young lads coming through, hasn't it? My worry is that as many of them as look can make it won't get the opportunity to do it in Scotland, end up going down south, and then don't make the grade down there and come back up again to a completely lower level than they left.
Well, the game's changed completely, Bill, as you know. That I think Big Dave McPherson, I think was at the World Cup, they did particularly well in. It was 84 or 83 or something like that, 82. And there was high expectations. A lot of the players did come through from that side, but I think the big thing is at the top level in England and in Scotland, there's a lot of competition from foreign players coming in. And in my day, there were very few foreign players in the English game even, every player. And I think that must be very, very frustrating for the England team, but also from the fact is if you're a young player and a young English player and you want to get to the top, it's very, very difficult, because you look at some of the teams, I think there's hardly any English players in some of them. So therefore it becomes very, very difficult. There's a pressure, and that's why I think the Championship, if you look, I heard quoted that there's significant amount of Scottish players playing in the Championship in England,
but it's been a while since we've had that kind of glut of players playing at a reasonable level down south.
It is. But there's very few playing in the Premiership.
But then again, you've just said, and you're right. You've just said there are only a few players, English players, playing in the Premiership.
Yeah, there's a lot. When you actually look at it in the Premiership, James MacArthur's playing consistently for Queen's Park, for Crystal Palace. I heard today McCarthy's coming back to Everton after that injury. He had a broken leg. He's been out for a long time. He's an exceptional player, although he's obviously chosen Ireland. But there are a lot of players down there that when you actually start to name them, people say, "Oh, he's playing down there." Andrew Robertson, of course. So I think that Scotland now have got a significant amount of top players, and when you look at that squad, the under 21 squad, you're just hoping that even if half a dozen of them come through, I think that will be a big thing for Scotland.
Just talking about Andy Robertson, what's your thoughts on him becoming captain for Scotland? I mean, is he, in your mind, the best candidate, the most suitable candidate at the moment? Kieran Tierney was in the frame for a while as well. Yeah, well, I think some captains lead by example, and I think certainly looking at his work rate and the amount of work he does getting up the park, just looking at that in a team, if you've see somebody with that energy and he's your captain, you'll raise your game because he sets the tempo. So there's a lot of that, leading by example. I don't think he's the guy that's going to shout and organise, because that was going to be my next question, actually. And isn't that a key role, certainly international level, when you've only got players for a little time, that somebody needs to be the manager on the park? And you hear it now, Davey, it is the in phrase at the moment, game management. Yeah.
It's difficult, and I think it's difficult. I feel it's always difficult for someone that plays wide in a team to actually have the influence in the team further up. But also the thing is, he's a young player and he's still learning his craft to a certain extent. So, I just hope that he doesn't, some players who have put in a position where they've got a captaincy, it affects their game. Because if you look at Motherwell, their captain, McHugh, decided it was affecting his game too much and he handed it over. So, I think that obviously Alec McLeish will know him very well, but I just hope that it doesn't affect his game, because, I've seen captains in teams where, they then think that they have to do something exceptional because of that badge that they carry as the captain. I was first made captain at Partick Thistle when I was 22, and I must admit, at first I thought it was difficult, because what people don't tell you is, what is your role as a captain? I mean, what do you want out me as a captain? And I remember speaking to Bertie Ogden saying, "You've made me the captain. What do you want me to do?" He said, "Just lead by example."
Captain.
I said, "All right." I said, "And what do you mean?" He says, "Well, your enthusiasm, your drive, that'll feed off." But what it did when I was announced as a captain, the players, they said, "That's good. Get into wee Bertie, and we want an increase in our bonus." Right, okay, I'll get that.
Naively.
So it's very quickly you get found out with the manager. But it's a difficult thing. But who else is in their team to take it? I thought maybe slightly more experienced player in midfield. That would have been my.
Who would you have had then?
I don't know. To be honest, Bill, and this sounds a bit unpatriotic, but I don't even know what the squad is. I don't follow Scotland that much. And that's a poor situation.
Well, let me ask you if it is a poor situation.
I've got a certain apathy about it.
But do you not think that we've developed a certain apathy about it generally, purely and simply because we've become so disenfranchised and disenchanted at the fact that we haven't qualified for 20 years for a major tournament, and we've come so close so many times, and we all watch Scotland, I know, when they play, but you get to a point where you think to yourself, there's a certain inevitability about this. Is it really worth it?
I'll be honest with you, what have they got? Albania coming up. I'm having to...
Belgium, obviously, on Friday. There's a friendly. Then Albania coming up for this Nations League. And maybe that's part of the thing as well, that we become apathetic because of these meaningless kind of competitions that seem to spring up. And years ago, I used to know every Scotland player, and I used to follow it, and I used to go to all the Scotland games. But I don't know if it's a generational thing now with me. It doesn't really, float my boat as such, because I'll watch the game on TV, I'll shout for Scotland, but, I'm not going to, tell any fibs, but the squad, the whole thing, I think it's lost its way a wee bit, and hopefully Alec gets it back. But, I'm looking at the squad there, I'm looking at the bits and pieces, and there's a lot of players in there that... don't really stand out, and I don't know what the crowd will be. I don't know what how many will turn up for it, and I just fear that maybe the Scotland supporters have got the same thing. What's the crowd going to be against Albania? Well, the last I heard, that wasn't huge, the ticket sales. One thing I will say, and I'm puzzled by this, is I worry about who chooses the teams we play in friendlies before competitive matches, because Belgium are a top team. They did extremely well in the World Cup. They could give us a bit of a roasting. I hope they don't. And then we've got to go into a competitive match against Albania. Now, you would expect that we would beat Albania, hopefully. But, they're no slouches. I watched Grezda, the boy that's just signed for Rangers, who's got Albanian caps. I think he's got about 6. But I watched him on YouTube, a compilation of his best bits, and he's no slouch. Now, at that time, he's playing for Albania. The Belgians are way above that standard. Why would we want to pick a team like Belgium? The manager and everybody else would argue you want to be tested to your highest so that you're going into the game at the top level. But I always worry about the psychological effect it has if you get a gubbing.
I agree with you. But, sometimes sort of teams and players raise their game against better opposition, and certainly Belgium are a team that I admire, very much. But if you look, I'm just looking at the thing is like Ryan Jack, Stephen A. Smith, Robert Snodgrass have been added to the squad. Looking at some of the players, so I think it's always difficult. And what Scotland need to do is basically, eclipse the women and actually get to a final, because it's going to be very, very difficult. And I don't know whether I'm, at the extreme end, an ex-football player that doesn't really follow the basically the football team. But I'm just. It doesn't really excite me, and I'm sad to say it, because I've always been a great supporter of Scotland in the past, but I don't know whether I'm disillusioned with it.
Well, let's get a wee bit of an insight into that friendly that's coming up on Friday night at Hampden. Frederic Frans, Dundee United defender from Belgium, on the line to us now. Good evening, sir. How are you?
Hi, I'm good. How are you?
Very well. We probably just heard the conversation that we've been having. You're back in Belgium at the moment. My concern is that, that Belgium are a top team. They're coming off the back of a very successful, not the most successful that you could have had, but a very successful World Cup. And it bothers me that we've picked a friendly like this before we go into a competitive Nations League match.
Yeah, I heard it, but it's like you said before. I think it's better to test yourself against the big teams. But yeah, obviously I think Belgium is going to try new stuff as well. I think new players are coming through. It's also the first friendly after a good World Cup, so Belgium will try stuff as well. So I think it's a good test for both. And yeah, Scotland, I think you need to try against the best team. So Belgium is up there with the best, I think.
Frederic, let me ask you this, because there was a lot of discontent with Belgian football, the national team, for a little while, and you guys seem to have stripped it right back. Is there anything that stands out for you that Scotland could learn from in terms of us rebuilding our reputation internationally?
To be honest, there was a long time there was no connection between the national team and the fans. We lost it during the years, but then I think the Belgium FA, let's say 4 to 6 years ago, started doing more towards the fans. And obviously, you can't deny we had a golden generation that started around 6 years ago, and that helps a lot as well, because results build more confidence with the fans and a closer bond. But in general, they got closer with the fans, and there never was really the crowd wasn't really behind the Belgians always. But since then, there's more unity. When the Belgians are playing, everybody comes out. We look more like a proud nation, and that changed a lot, I think. But like I said, if you have a generation like we are having at the moment,
but hasn't
as a supporter, I guess.
But that generation, I'm assuming, hasn't happened by luck. The Belgians have looked at the game and they've done things, and they've started to change the way that they coached kids at a younger age. So as much as people have natural ability and natural skill, I get the impression from people I've spoken to previously about the way that Belgium redefined the way they wanted to bring kids on, that there was a very definite plan there.
I think 10 years ago or something, or 12 years ago, they changed a lot as well, in the youth systems and stuff. Obviously, I'm not sure what everything they changed, but because I felt it as well. I came from the generation where I played with all those boys like Alderweireld, Mignolet, all them. And I think in the youth, the focus went more from winning games and physique. It went more to building actually good players, and especially the big teams like Anderlecht, Bruges, they put more investments, I think, in the youth. And I think it was also to close the gap a little bit with Europe, because we can't compete in terms of money, the teams. So I think that's why they focused more on the youth, and you see the benefits of it now. So you also that it's not luck, because to be honest, the new generation that's coming through, they look quite good as well. I mean, we got a few boys in Monaco. They must be doing something right, I think.
Do you think This is Dave MacKinnon. Frederic, do you think that Roberto Martinez has done a good job there? Because it's always difficult when you've got so many players playing at a top level, particularly in England, to actually get them all to play as a team. You know, I think that Mark Wilmot's maybe didn't do that, but is there a belief in Belgium that Martinez has been a good appointment for the team?
You know, like in football, there's always people who are pro and always people who are contra, because obviously with the team we have, a lot of people were also expecting to win the World Cup, but it's not that easy. So, of course, like, sometimes people are against Mark because of what he does, but then against Brazil, his tactics were on point, and then people love him again. So that's football. But in general, I think he did a great job. He built a team. Something that didn't happen when Wilmots was in charge. Then we were just more like a bunch of great players, but more individuals. And you could hear all stories coming through from the players, from the camp itself, that they were not happy. And I think after the European Championship in France, lots of players came out having critics on the tactics and everything. And now with Martinez, the last years, this doesn't happen anymore. So he built more like a team culture, I think. And you can have the best players in the world, but if you don't have a team, you won't win anything. So even if you see at France, I think the reason why they won it was they fought. So, and that's what happened in Belgium as well with under Martinez, I think.
When you look at the Belgium setup now, you say there's some more new players and younger players coming through who look as if they can continue this golden generation type thing. How easy is it going to be, though, to integrate them into the squad? Because sometimes players come through at a time where other players who are already in the squad and in the team have still got a lot left in them. And we've seen it with other international teams. In fact, there was a time when England were the same, where it was harder to get out of the team than it was to get in it.
Yeah, obviously I think there are a few, of course, that are getting old. Old, but
looks as if we might have lost Frederic. Looks like he's on some motorway in Belgium that's got we've got you back. Sorry, we missed you. We thought you'd gone under. We thought you'd gone under a tunnel on the motorway or something.
To be honest, I'm driving, so sorry if the connection dropped a little bit, but I'm gonna go to the side, so I'm almost finished. No, so what I was saying, like, is that guys like Company, it's true, like they're older, but they won't get up their spot very easy, you know. So the young boys that have to come through, I guess they have to be really good to take the spots, but it's not easy. I mean, it's like you said with England as well. It's not easy if you have that good generation, and it's not easy to come and claim your spot because you need to be world class.
Can I ask you something just about club football, Frederic? You know, obviously at Dundee United now, you played with Partick Thistle. One thing that obviously Scottish football, you know, from the inside, we don't talk it up enough, I don't believe. But, you know, I was astounded when I looked. You obviously played at Lierse, very, very famous team. I found it strange that they've actually gone into bankruptcy, so they're now no longer Lierse, and they've reformed and playing in the amateur league. How did that happen? Because it would be very, very unusual for it to happen in Scotland.
Now we definitely have lost him.
Maybe there was a question.
Maybe we'll get him back anyway. We'll get Lewis to get him back.
But it was interesting. I was just saying that Bill, you know, Lierse, you know, team that played in the UEFA Cup, you know, very famous team. You know, big crowds going to their stadium, and you know they've gone bankrupt in May 18. Now, you know, I just think that that tells you maybe a lot about Belgian football, because when you actually look at the players that are playing for the national team, they all play abroad, as I understand it, and it means maybe that the Belgian league does not get the kind of exposure that it should do.
Well, Frederic was actually saying that, of course, that maybe his battery's gone dead, I don't know, but Frederic was actually saying, of course, that they don't have the money to compete with other neighbours in Europe. It could well be that is part of the problem. But I'll tell you something else, which is quite interesting. And you talk about teams going bust in Belgium. Don't forget, in Serie A, there was a big period where it looked as if some of the top teams were going to go into administration. And again, that was something that was completely, supposedly unexpected.
Yep.
But with football today, we were talking last night, and we spoke to Chris Doolan about the ghost goal, and he said, just when you think you can't be surprised by anything in football, something else does surprise you, and it's very much the case, to be honest with you, Davey.
Yeah. Well, you always imagine that the grass is always greener, and you think other countries are doing very well, and that's why I think in Scotland. From basically a league perspective, I don't think we talk it up enough.
Well, we've got Frederic back, so you can ask your question. Frederic, good that we've got you back. Sorry about that.
Sorry, no, it's my fault. I mean, I just parked, so I thought, okay, now the connection's going to be good, but it went worse, so...
Start driving again.
Yeah, that's better, maybe.
So I was just saying, Frederic, is the fact is you're obviously Scotland well. You played with Partick Thistle and Dundee United now, and we always think in Scotland that maybe teams are better and leagues are better, and you've obviously Belgium. Well, you played for Lierse, but it really surprised me that Lierse became bankrupt, and they're playing in the second amateur league and reforming.
Yeah.
How did that come about? Yeah. Because it's a strange situation for us.
Yeah, so I played since I was 5 years old. I played for Lierse, so it was always my club. But then, 10 years ago, they were bought by an Egyptian owner, an Egyptian guy. And when he came, the sky was the limit. So he was buying players like national team players, paying them crazy wages. And then there was a time that everything went right. But then, obviously he was he was dreaming of Champions League and everything. And because these things weren't happening, after a few years he stopped paying the big wages. So the team went down, went to second division. And then last year, he just had enough of it. So he put the club for sale, but obviously he put 75 million into it, euros, and he had so many debts in the club. No one was buying the club, So then at the end of last season, around April, May, we weren't paid from the end of January. Nobody was paid anymore, so we were stopped playing football actually, and he just let the club went bankrupt and went to Egypt. So. That's the story in really short, but it's terrible, It's like the club is just gone. So,
and it's a big. It's always been a big club, They've got a very, very good stadium, but it must be, for the fans. One of the things that I think we've done in Scotland, we've had people like that come into Scotland and promise the earth and go and put clubs into trouble. I think we've got to the bottom of it. We've stopped that because it's always something that you chase. But is there some kind of thing that the Belgian Football Association have done to stop this kind of thing happening at all in the future?
I don't know. I think they maybe need to check better the foreign people who come in. I don't know, but otherwise, the guy came in the beginning, and obviously the Belgium FA loved it because he was bringing money into the league. He was making the league better in the beginning by buying better players. But then if it's your club, he's the owner, so in the end he does what he wants. The only thing what I blame a little bit the FA is we as players were not really protected, so also when we weren't paid, we couldn't do anything for 3 months. We had to keep going. Only after 3 months you would be a free player, but then always he would pay a little part, so we wouldn't be free. Or things like this, I think they have to be better in protecting the players a little bit more because, it's not nice, you know. You want to be paid. I think another job if people are paid for 1 week, they stop. So, but we couldn't. So strange, but it's hard. The worst is for the fans, you know. I mean, the club they support, for some people it's their life. It's gone, you know. So.
Not good at all. But I think the other thing we were talking about is that because so many Belgian players on the national side play abroad, that must be difficult for the supporters to get behind them maybe sometimes, because there's not that, you know, knowledge of seeing them every week.
Yeah, maybe, yes, but otherwise, you know, okay, the Belgium league, it's not the worst. It's an okay league. But if you, I guess the Belgian supporters want the best national team. So then we know as well that the players have to go to Premier League or La Liga or so. I don't think they really mind, you know. And these days you can watch all the games. So I think they're pretty happy and proud that we got a lot of players in the league doing well.
Let me ask you to give me a prediction on tomorrow night's game, if you would, Frederic. But just remember, at some point you have to come back to Scotland.
No, to be honest, I like Scotland. It's my second home, so I'm not sure how the Belgians will play. You know, they had a good World Cup, so it's the first game after the World Cup. A lot of new players, so I still think Belgium will win. To be honest,
go on,
because they got.
Give us a score line.
Let's say 1-2.
Okay, all right. Listen, thank you for talking to us, and you can now get out the car or start driving again. But
brilliant.
Thanks very much, Frederic. Cheers. Thanks a lot.
You're welcome.
Bye-bye.
Good night.
Frederic Frans there talking to us from Belgium about the Belgian visit to Hampden Park, which will happen tomorrow. It just shows you, David, that it's nowhere really that, apart from maybe England possibly, where people are protected in terms of the finances. I mean, the Premier League, the money's absolutely obscene.
Yep.
But there is a little bit of worry going on, and I'll tell you where it's coming from down south. The fact that, and they think that initially it'll be fine because there'll be a bidding war, but the fact that people like YouTube and Amazon and Facebook and people like that are now looking at football coverage and bidding for it. But it will get to a point where I think it will implode at some point. It really will.
I think you're absolutely right, Bill. And I think the fact is that, the other thing is that there's a debate at the top leagues about the fans, the true fans, are maybe getting priced out a wee bit, because some of the prices that are charged are absolutely incredible.
Well, somebody was complaining the other night, or the other day in the office. They'd looked at the price of a ticket for the friendly with Belgium, and I'm not sure who it was, but I think I'm right in saying it was around 35 quid for a friendly.
I think that's a lot, but obviously,
I mean, I might be wrong, but I'm sure I heard 30 or 35 quid being bandied around. David.
Well, it's the game in next week. That's the game. I just wonder how many people are going to go to that. But I don't think they've got the money right, and obviously they're going through this thing about Hampden or Murrayfield, so they need every penny they could get just now. But I think it'll be interesting. The games will be live, I would imagine, on TV, so the last thing you want is a half-empty Hampden at this stage. Doesn't do anything for Alec McLeish and what he's trying to do.
I absolutely hate Hampden when it's half-empty, especially when
you're half-empty rather than half-full guy.
Well, yeah, I am when it comes to Hampden and it comes to football, because it really just exacerbates all the problems you've got in terms of the atmosphere, and that's why I'm still campaigning and will continue to campaign for this thing. If they stay at Hampden, they have got to square it off, and they have got to get rid of those gaping expanses behind the goals. There's no other. It should not even enter into being a debate. Should we or shouldn't we?
No, maybe that's been priced. Maybe that's why it's been held up, the decision. You never know.
I doubt it.
No,
I doubt it.
But I think,
in fact, you know what? I doubt that they'll even do something about it, if I'm honest.
Well, I think that's half the thing, because maybe that's the reason why a lot of guys like me are just disenfranchised with the national team. And for being an ex-footballer, for me to say that is pretty hard. But it's one of these things that you probably watch and then you may switch the channels and see if it's on Netflix.
I can remember, this is absolutely true, I can remember going to see a home international, Scotland against Wales at Hampden on a Wednesday night, and there was 90,000 people there, the old Hampden.
Yep. Well, that's it. We reminisce about the old days, but I think the thing is that that was the thing, you knew every player. They were household names, and whilst a lot of the players are known by their own support, there's a lot of players in that squad. Looking at the squad, there's a lot of players I honestly couldn't tell you where they play. And that's not, at the end of the day, you have to pick who you believe is good for the team. And I think Alex McLeish has always got a difficult task in appeasing everyone. I think he's a very good manager. I think he's a guy who knows how to get the best out of a team. But it's going back to the thing, what will happen against Belgium. There'll probably be a lot of changes. But I just wonder what the future of Scotland as a nation is, because we're just not achieving the kind of things we want. And if you look at the other home nations, what Wales have done, what Northern Ireland have done, in World Cups and European Championships, it's certainly when the team's playing well, there's a bond between the supporters and the players. I think that bond's not quite there yet with the Scotland team. Let
me ask you this, because I saw Malky Mackay on TV talking last night about the ladies' great result, magnificent result to get them through to the World Cup final. And I got a sense of foreboding when I was watching this particular interview, because I thought to myself, we're going to use this as a sticking plaster. We're going to think everything's okay because we've qualified for a tournament. And he was saying, it vindicates this and it vindicates that and all the rest of it. And, it shows that what we're doing is right and working. And I started to think, please don't say anything else. Please just don't say anything else. And it now worries me that we now think everything's hunky-dory.
Well, sometimes that's what it is. It takes the pressure off the people and say, right, well, that says we've achieved what we want to do. But, with respect, I think the main focus is on, the male game. And I think whilst it's great that women have qualified, and certainly, we'll be cheering them on. But if it was the guys qualifying, there'd be a euphoria. And it's such that, to an extent, I remember the days when Scotland used to qualify for every World Cup, and I remember going to the World Cup in Spain, 1982, and it was unbelievable. I mean, the atmosphere, the fans, being part of it, going to all the games, and just it was wonderful.
Well, there was a period of time, and Alec would be able to tell us about this. Alec Horsburgh would be able to tell us this, but there was a period of time, which must have been in the 70s, where and kind of into the 80s, where we were qualifying more often for major tournaments than England were.
Yeah, I remember. Well, that great song was Andy Cameron. They didn't qualify.
There's a bit of a contradiction in terms, I'm afraid. There.
What song?
Andy Cameron and great song,
But no, I know what you're saying, and there's a lot of young football supporters now. You can see them at the games, the Rangers Celtic games, all the what Motherwell are doing, Hamilton doing. At every game now, there's a significant, and there was a time when we thought a generation would be lost to football to support their team.
I think it was, but I think
it's coming back.
Well, I think a different generation's coming back, because I think the generation that missed it are kind of revisiting football a wee bit.
Yeah, I agree with you, but I think the thing is, when you look at actually the makeup now of a football crowd, then there's a significant amount of young people going
and
to the
women.
Games. Yep, and which is absolutely wonderful. But remember, the thing is, like Bill, these people have not seen Scotland qualify, so it's almost like, listen, it'll never happen. So there's a kind of disbelief, and that disbelief sometimes turns to apathy, because how many of those supporters will say, I'm going to go and watch Scotland, and as I said to you, He's an ex-professional footballer, played for 20 years. It's a disappointment for me, and I can't believe I'm saying it. But that's where I am with it. And I've spoken to a lot of people are exactly the same, and it's a disappointment. But I think Alec McLeish, there's nothing like winning a few games, maybe getting the latter stages or something, and people start to maybe say, oh, let's set up, because everybody likes to be associated with a team that's successful.
Absolutely. Let's take a quick break. We'll come back and we'll round things off on Talking Football. Don't forget, pole position up after 8 o'clock. Andy and Adam back with you, talking all things motorsport.
Love music, live sport. Talking Football with Bill Young and David MacKinnon on RockSport Radio.
Okie dokie, almost finished for this Thursday night. Quickly, Kenny Miller and Lee Wallace apparently about to hit Rangers with a bill for over $100,000 after their appeals were upheld. Well,
it's not a difficult call for Kenny Miller because he's left. I understand that he was fined 2 weeks' wages, and Lee was fined 4 weeks' wages. So he's still a player and an employee there.
Left out of the Europa League squad, though.
That'll be a difficult one for him. So I would imagine that he'll have to watch how he takes it, forward, because you're suing your club for wages. But at the end of the day, the decision made, rightly or wrongly, because the big thing is that no one knows what went on behind the scenes. No one knows what was said. But I find it difficult that it wasn't a good day for Rangers, because I think, as I understand it, the players were standing up for the team, and they were criticised for that. So it's always difficult. Rangers come out and said they're very unhappy about it. At the end of the day, the decision are made, and when people make decisions, it's made on evidence. So
I'll tell you one of the things that puzzles me, and we've literally only got seconds to go.
Well, no one's got seconds to discover what you're...
Oh, no, I mean, what I was talking about earlier on, I'll tell you what we were talking about earlier on. In the office, I said to Davey, some wise guy is going to make a comment about the colour of my T-shirt. And the comment I expected was, your badges dropped off your Rangers top. But it hasn't happened, so... to you all.
Well, that's a late 60s Rangers top without the big badge.
Right, that's it. Andy and Adam up next. I'll see you tomorrow with Shuggy and Heg.
Love music, live sport. Talking Football with Bill Young and Ali Graham on RockSport Radio.